Doing the order granting free trial publicity, we'll make sure council gets a copy. The defense. Every point. Not been a request for expanded meeting.
What the fuck's up with the TV? It keeps going like out.
Oh my god, that's my great uncle here. To my great uncle, look at that. Wow.
Again, these long pauses, these freeze frames, is how the satellite feed is being received by us.
Well, fucking fix your shit.
Can we do it forthwith upon the receipt of the motion? Do you have any objection to that?
I don't know if this is on any other channel. This channel is fucking shitty.
Okay, Ms. Chambers, do you have any objection to that procedure? Ms. Pearson?
Sylvester asked him if he understood what was happening right now, and this notion that a week from now will have formal charges, and he didn't respond. It was the public defender that responded on his behalf. Is that unusual?
It is not unusual. Usually the lawyer will speak and enter a plea of not guilty at some point, or speak for the client, so the client is rarely asked to actually say anything before it's time in the trial. However, if you just look at the man and he seems out of it, and I would be questioning, as lawyers are, I'm sure, is he able to assist in preparing a defense? Because you can't try somebody if they don't know what's going on around them. And
Sure you fucking can.
Capable of understanding
and he's been kept in solitary confinement for the last 2 days. His apprehended very shortly after the incident unfolded in the movie theater. Obviously, there was a lot of questioning, and we've heard reports from police that he was not very cooperative, other than to tell them about the booby trap apartment, which, you know, we saw unfold over the weekend as the authorities went in there. What sort of evidence do you think they were able to gain by getting access to the apartment?
Well, it sounds from the initial reports that they were able to gain substantial information that would establish that he has been planning this event for quite some time. Immediately, when you look at it, you would establish in the investigation anything you could that would establish that he premeditated this, that would counter any arguments that he is insane. And insanity is really defined as not having an understanding of the difference between right and wrong, or not being able to conform your behavior to the requirements of the law. And so, to the extent that he was premeditating this, or to the extent after the crime he attempted to secrete it, or hide it in some way, or hiding it in the trunk, or trying to escape, those all show that he understands that this was wrong. So how you plan it and how you escape from it are very probative of what his state of mind was at the time of the crime.
So for people at home just tuning into KNCN right now, 1141, what we're looking at right now is the continuing initial advisement in Centennial Courthouse in Colorado, where Chapman is here with us. He's our legal analyst here at NECN.
It's like they're taking him out of the courtroom now, in the shackles and his maroon jumpsuit.
And the question now to his state of mind and to this first stage of is he competent to stand trial? As the judge, kind of said, we're going to quiet this down a little bit. People have kept this fellow as, number one, getting lawyered up and not being cooperative. We've just observed him in real time, and as Bridget described it, he's out of it. When you say they're lawyered up and you say they're not cooperating, it implies that they're kind of in control of their actions and their decision making. This fellow looks a little different than if we're looking right now.
Certainly, he seems as though mentally he is not with it. I think your first reaction might be, is he on some kind of medication? One thing I can assure you is nobody in the government is going to be giving this man any medication or drugs until there's been some kind of court order, because they are going to keep him this way so that he can present himself to the court in a non-medicated, clear mind to the extent he has it. And so that any doctors that then come in to now analyze and see whether he's competent can test him in a way that is not affected by sedatives or some other kind of medication. So that's him in an unmedicated state. Now, there's a lot of other questions in terms of his mental history. A lot of investigation is going to have to go into this before you get to the point where we can say whether he is or not meeting the definition of insanity. And as you said, the first and most important thing is, can he assist in his defense in this case?
Well, we didn't get a good feel for, from the angle of the cameras in the courtroom there, and how crowded the courtroom was. We know that they had set up a spillover courtroom where they had hooked up some audio so family members of victims might be able to listen in. They set aside 35 seats specifically for representatives of the media. We know it's swarming with cameras and news crews there, and also space available again for survivors and family of victims who want access to the process of this unfolds.
This is one of the things that I think is very important is the way in which the court manages the dissemination of information surrounding this case. Both parties, the government and the defendant, have to be mindful that this case has to be tried before a jury at some point. And their pretrial dissemination of prejudicial material, one way or another, in this case, could affect the ability to effectually get a fair trial. But if you're going to prosecute this man, especially on the death penalty, this could go all the way to the United States Supreme Court. It is going to be turned upside down. And the last thing you want to do would be at a pretrial stage prejudice the ability to give a fair trial to the parties by disseminating something before it should be. So the government has to be mindful of this. The court has to keep its arms around the information to make sure nothing gets out there before it's supposed to.
All right, just to clarify for people just tuning in now, this has been a preliminary hearing. Formal charges, if they do come, if we expect, won't take place until next July 30th. That's a week from today. That's one of the things that we've learned from today. I hate to jump ahead to this, but it's something that people are going to be thinking about. You mentioned the death penalty, Bridget. Randy, let's talk about that. Why would a district attorney go aggressively for that or not? If they want to really hit a home run, make sure the case is victorious for the state, what's going to go into that?
Well, there's going to be a lot of considerations in deciding. You would expect, first of all, does it meet the legal definition of the death penalty eligible offense in Colorado? Every state has set up their own statute, and some have aggravating factors which make it a death penalty eligible case.
It's in all of it's just multiple victims. Again, more than the law qualifies for consideration.
Yeah, as I understand it, plus in lying in ambush, there's a lot of elements here that I think probably seem to meet the definition of the Colorado death penalty statute. So it meets the legal definition. Now the question is, do they want to go after it? I guess you would have to say to yourself, if you're not going to go after a death penalty, and I'm personally not a big fan of the death penalty, but if you're not going to go after it in this case, is there any other case you're going to? I mean, you have multiple murders, truly innocent, unattacked victims. It is the kind of case, children, it's the kind of case that does scream out for a death penalty call. This is a decision by the executive branch, which in this case would be the district attorney. Not a decision made by the court, so not a decision made by the defendant. The district attorney will have to decide whether or not it is. I'd be surprised, based not only on the facts of this case, but based on what we've learned about the track record of this particular VA, who is known and has been leading the charge of death penalty prosecutions in Colorado. I'd be surprised if she doesn't seek the death penalty.
We're leaving some video showing the suspect in court just a few moments ago. They took him out in shackles and his jumpsuit, believing that he'll probably go back to solitary confinement, which is how they say he's been kept for the last couple of days. Colorado on Friday. Do you think he's had any contact with her, and if not, would he be able to have contact with her now?
He might have been entitled, and certainly probably was, given a right to a phone call. Most of his access prior to this point would likely only be to counsel, because he'd be kept in a very confined way. He hasn't been formally charged yet. And so once he is formally charged, be that if they, and I don't know specifically about Colorado law, but once he is certainly arraigned next Monday, he would be able to have some access to family members and friends who would come and visit him under obviously strict scrutiny. The lawyers are entitled to typically go in at any point to visit the client directly because they need to be able to begin to prepare that case.
Well, we've been hearing from the officials that he's not been very cooperative, at least in their case, but now he's working with his public defender. So what sort of relationship do they need to create in order to come up with a defense?
Well, in any particular case, the first thing the lawyer has to do is sit down at length with the client and go over it. First of all, at the same time, not only finding out factually what the case is all about, and what the person is saying happened or not happened. I don't know, does he have an alibi? Does he establish that he wasn't involved in whatsoever? Is there some valid defense that would support this?
Obviously, he doesn't
And
have a
also
fucking
at the
alibi.
same time, make an independent assessment. One, is the defendant competent? Meaning, is he understanding what my role is, what the court's role is, what he's being charged with, can he assist me? Because if he's not competent, the first thing you're going to do is get a psychiatrist in there to evaluate him, to report to the court that he can't even be brought to trial because he can't assist me. He doesn't even know what he's being charged with. So that's the first stage. And while it's viewing the client, I would have to determine whether or not I would make an assessment. Does he seem to understand what he's done here? Does he understand the difference between right or wrong? And even if he does understand that it was wrong, was he able to conform his behavior to the requirements of the law? So,
And we'll get some context on that, certainly throughout this day and going forward here at NECN. This is a young man who had come to Colorado studying neuroscience as a graduate student. You know, did he ever get well? We don't know. And that's something that we'll continue to kind of observe. The court is saying lawyers won't talk about this, but it won't stop people from learning more about him, the kind of person that he was.
but keep in mind also, Steve, that even if he was at some point a brilliant neuroscience and with a promising career, that doesn't mean he couldn't have a break with reality. He couldn't snap. So, no, he isn't mentally retarded in terms of having a low IQ that he's been since he was young. But that doesn't mean that he could not have had a break from reality and make it, at least, we certainly know he's troubled. At best, we certainly know just by evaluating this and what's involved, we know he's deeply troubled. Exactly. We know he certainly has issues. Whether or not it rises to the legal definition of an insanity defense, that's something we won't find out from us.
This is the first step of many moving forward, likely. Our legal analyst, Randy Chapman, thanks for joining myself, Bridget White, and Steve Avison here with this breaking news.
And so retailers want to make sure that their prices are great on Sundays for those items.
All right, one other thing we'll tribute for you. What day of the week's the busiest day for eBay?
eBay.
This man, and now she's got her side. The latest inductee of the Georgia Club, she lost an astonishing 1